During the cold winter of 1890, the Sioux at Pine Ridge and other agencies, disillusioned by hunger, sickness, and broken government promises, were in a belligerent and hostile mood. Their only spark of hope was a new religion that foretold a return to the old ways, a time when whites would be driven from their lands, and the buffalo would return. The buffalo had been the single most important element of life for the Plains Indians. Apart from being their staple food source, the buffalo also provided shelter and clothing. The Sioux made awls, scrapers, needles, and knives from its bones. They used its fats and oils as preservatives, medicine, glue, and moisturizers. Nearly every part of the animal had a purpose. The Sioux also used different parts of the buffalo in all their religious ceremonies. As the buffalo had all but disappeared from the plains, it was inevitable that the Sioux way of life would change forever. Ironically, it was the white man who had inadvertently pushed the Sioux onto the plains, where they later thrived, just a couple of hundred years earlier. Before 1700, white traders began supplying firearms to the Ojibwa, who, once armed, spent the following decades driving the Sioux out of the forests and onto the plains. There, the Sioux flourished, eventually becoming the largest and most dominant tribal power in the region. Now, the Sioux were looking for a return to those years when they were masters of all they could see. This new religion centered on the ghost dance, a ritual that deeply alarmed Indian agents at the Sioux reservations. The agents feared the movement would push the already agitated Sioux into open rebellion, and therefore requested military assistance. Almost half of all the cavalry and infantry in the United States at the time were sent to the Dakotas to monitor what was perceived as a growing threat. When soldiers were deployed to the agencies, more than 30 newspapermen were dispatched by their editors to cover events. Along with them were 2 female reporters. They spent time among the Sioux at the agencies, all hungry for the story. They sent back a flood of sensational reports, and some took deliberately provocative photographs, images they knew would stir emotions and sell newspapers back home. Many historians believe these reporters greatly exaggerated the danger posed by the ghost dance, each trying to outdo the others with predictions of imminent war. Pine Ridge appeared on the front pages of newspapers for more than 60 days. The effect on both the public and the authorities was to heighten fear and expectation of violence. South Dakota Senator Richard Pettigrew accused the newsmen of seeing an outbreak in every breeze, a bloody encounter in every rustling bough. Pettigrew added that correspondents were sending columns of gore to any paper willing to buy them, only to contradict themselves the following day to keep interest alive in their dispatches. It can only be imagined that the soldiers were influenced by this exaggerated reporting as well. They too were on edge. The media had lit the fuse. Just weeks later, on 29th of December 1890, the powder keg exploded. The 7th Cavalry intercepted Spotted Elk's band of Minneconjou Sioux, along with 40 Hunkpapa, and escorted them to Wounded Knee Creek, where they were ordered to camp. More soldiers soon arrived and surrounded the encampment. When soldiers attempted to search and disarm the band, a crowd of Sioux warriors formed. A shot was fired, by whom remains disputed, and then all hell broke loose. The soldiers, fed a steady diet of stories predicting violence, unleashed their firepower on the camp. 4 Hotchkiss-designed 1875 mountain guns were brought to bear, along with rifles. The mountain guns fired small explosive shells that scattered shrapnel in every direction. When the smoke cleared, nearly 300 Sioux men, women, and children lay dead, along with 30 soldiers. This tragic event marked the going down of the sun on the once mighty Sioux Empire. The massacre at Wounded Knee was quickly labeled a battle by American newspapers. Most repeated the Army's claims without question, portraying the Lakota as violent and the soldiers as restoring order. Sensational headlines and racial stereotypes helped inflame public fear and justify what followed. When evidence emerged that women and children had been killed indiscriminately, the story began to crack. A few journalists and reformers challenged the official version, revealing that Wounded Knee was not a battle. but a massacre. Yet the press was never held to account. No major newspapers retracted their claims or apologized for their role in spreading fear and misinformation. The headlines moved on, and responsibility vanished. Wounded Knee exposed how easily truth can be buried when newspapers choose sensation and spectacle over facts, a lesson that still echoes today. Join us for more in-depth Native American history by watching our long videos here at Wildwestfaces.